Committee members. We need 5 for quorum. So what we can do is either decide that we're going to have an informal meeting and a couple of our important agenda items. It has a sense there are not a couple more folks.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there, Megan. I'm sorry. We caught a little bit of it.
Sorry, and I can hop on to a different device. I was coming home from work and I called in, so I think I'm on Wi-Fi. But there I was saying that we've got 3 members. We need 5 for quorum. So out of respect for everyone's time who's currently
I'm so sorry, you're going in and out again. I
don't have
No, you got some technical
move forward with the informal meeting. We could wait another 5 minutes if we think. Let me try to.
You might be in a bad spot, Megan.
Yeah, also
I'm gonna try to switch.
Yeah, while she switches, I caught a little bit of what I think I heard her say is we could either wait or begin. And I think at this point we have waited 15 minutes past the stated time that we said we were going to begin. So I would suggest that we do that once Megan is able to reconnect.
Okay. I agree.
And in the meantime, I don't know that I've ever really formally introduced myself, but as I will be the support staff moving forward for this council until we hire another food resilience position. I'm Helen. I'm the director of sustainability for the city. So we oversee recycling, some of the energy programs and efforts. We have some money for solar installations this year, which is big. We oversee Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful. And then, of course, now the food resilience work as well. So that's me, that's us. Once we get a new person in that role, they'll join as well. I may join to help get them acclimated at first for maybe a month or 2 for this group, but we'll see, and I'll keep you guys updated on the front of what that is looking like.
Okay. Good to meet you again.
Yes.
Nice meeting you, Helen.
You too.
Likewise, it's nice to see you again, Helen. I think you've joined a few of our meetings virtually. Hopefully this sound is somewhat improved.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, let's give it a risk with using video as well. If not, I'll go off video. But yeah, I agree with Helen, just out of respect for everybody's time in terms of it being 15 minutes past our official start. I'm Megan Regan, and as chair, we do not currently have quorum, and so we'll proceed with this meeting with some informal updates and announcements. So at that point, I think I would like to turn it over to Helen from the city to share some updates about council, as well as the document she shared with council members and the Liberty Street Market.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I will start with just a quick update on the vacancies front for the UFPC. We are actively working on getting 2 of the 3 current vacancies filled. There are names out there. We're just trying to work with the mayor's office to get those on an agenda for a city council meeting as soon as possible. So there is some movement there, and hopefully in the next meeting or 2, there will be some new members and get these numbers back up for you guys. And then, as I said, we're currently in the process of looking for a new food resilience program manager. And as we progress through that process, I will let you know and introduce you to that person once there is a person there. And then onto the Liberty Street Market update. So while Tiffany has definitely transitioned into her new role, she is still supporting the market efforts until there is a new person in that role. And currently they are still planning on ending the market for this year in October. October 15th right now is the last scheduled one. And then this last one that happened on September 3rd, that was canceled due to low vendor availability. So only one produce selling vendor had registered. And unfortunately, because of that market event had to be canceled for that date.
So there, Helen, if you don't mind me adding, something we learned last summer, or myself, that was echoed by a number of our vendors who participate in various markets, is that a market the week of a major holiday tends to have low attendance, especially by vendors. And so I think it was the July 4th one we noticed was kind of an anomaly, but kind of going forward, perhaps that might be information to pass along to Tiffany or whomever.
Yes, it would be the new food resilience person who may also have their own ideas. It'll fall under their supervision, and so they may have other ideas as well. So the plan right now is to finish out this season, and then you all can work with that new food resilience program manager on any potential changes or ideas that may come up in the future. So if there are any other questions or comments about that market, feel free to chime in. I think now is an appropriate time for that. I don't know if there are any other thoughts or comments.
I went out, not this last one, but the one before, and it seems to be doing pretty well. Good vendor attendance, good customer attendance. It was also nice to see Tiffany. I hadn't seen her for a while. So I think for folks who are still kind of actively keeping up with the market, it's doing great. It's nice to see.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
I think perhaps if we had, I don't know if one has already been implemented, but if we had like a calendar or a schedule for participants, so they can know what dates are available, so they can kind of plan in advance accordingly. I think that might be a point to ponder.
Yes, there is a schedule available on the city's webpage for the Liberty Street Market that lists the dates for the entire season.
Okay.
So that is also always updated. So once one of the dates has passed, it's taken off and updated like that every other week. So that's available. And then the city's social media accounts, their Facebook page in particular, shares that information. I do believe that information is shared the day of. I don't know that there is much warning for that. But yes, those dates are already publicly available.
Now, as far as a marketing outreach or a marketing campaign, how does that look in terms of what I mean is if we have several market outlets in the city that occur simultaneously, is there a way for us to reach out to vendors in those capacities to kind of promote the Liberty Street market availabilities, or is that something that's?
I would say that is something that you all can do as private citizens. I don't know, especially on behalf of the city, because the city is so involved in the Fairgrounds Farmers Market that is on city property as well. I know that they're they assist the Liberty Street Market as well, because those are different days and locations. But in terms of soliciting vendors, I'm not sure what the appropriate protocol is there. But again, these are all questions and concerns that the new person in this role will be able to help you with.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if both Liberty Street Market and the Fairground Market, are those hosted, are those under the same managing entity, or is that two exclusive concepts?
Those are two separate, because the Fairgrounds department oversees the one on their property, and they function separately than the food resilience position, my department. So yes, we're not involved with what's going on at the fairgrounds, other than the fact that they both fall under the City of Winston-Salem organizational oversight.
So with that being the case, there wouldn't be any room necessarily for any type of cross promotion. I guess what I'm saying is trying to streamline the marketing.
Yeah,
I kind of will help segue some of those participants there and help them, let them know. Because some of them may not know that there are vendor opportunities at the Liberty Market.
Absolutely. And that is true. I will also note that a lot of the vendors at the Fairgrounds Farmers Market are not from within necessarily the boundaries of the City of Winston-Salem. And I know that that is something that has been brought up as being important for the Liberty Street Market. I've heard you all discuss that in the past. So there's also that to consider. But again, this is a conversation that I think would be important to take up once there is somebody in this role to consider before the next season's Liberty Street Market starts up again.
Because I was just wondering, I'm listening to what you're saying, because I know you were saying those in the vicinity are considered a priority, but being in that radius, does that make it a prerequisite, or how does that work?
Would be up to you all to decide, and the food resilience program manager, because your group and that position have the most direct oversight. I'm not sure where that 5-mile radius decision or policy, unofficial or official, I'm not sure where that came from. So I cannot say for sure that that is something that there should be priority for. Again, I was not part of that decision. So I appreciate all the questions and the interest. These are definitely important questions and would be good definitely to discuss prior to, but at this point, with a month left of those markets and with myself being the temporary staff support here, I can only shed so much light on this conversation for you guys.
Okay. And the reason why I'm saying is because I'm out a lot, and today, as a matter of fact, I hear some TV or something in the background.
I think it's my family. I'm gonna hit mute.
But yeah, I was out earlier today, and I saw a couple of independent vendors, W&W and so forth, off of Old Greensboro Road, who have operations, and not knowing whether or not if we're able to, or we've been able to contact and reach everybody who's actually growing. Excuse me, because I know that area or that concept is in that identified area. So I'm just, and I listen to what you're saying, Helen, at this point in terms of the schedule and so forth. It probably would behoove us to kind of consider this type of measure, for the upcoming season. So I was just, seeing if we were.
Those are all very, valid and good points, though, for sure.
Because even with cobblestone, is that an independent concept, or is that something that's managed?
Yes, that is not. There is no support from the city for the cobblestone. That one is completely independent of our city's operations. Margaret Neff is definitely the best contact for that group. So if you did have questions as to how they are soliciting vendors, signing up vendors, things like that, Margaret Neff would definitely be the person to do that. And I'm sure you all have contacts with her already to do that. But yes, that is not part of our our city work, other than the fact that, I do know they accept SNAP and EBT, much like our markets. So, but that's the only overlap, I believe.
Yeah, and I would add to that, and again, sorry for background noise. Brandon, if you would like to get in contact with Margaret or Ariana, who's their market manager, that is like an
That's the mother and daughter, right?
LLC.
That's the mother and daughter.
Huh?
That's the mother and daughter, right?
No, they're not. I think that the market is at a place where it has employees.
Oh, okay. No, because I thought one time the Cabo had met the I think those who managed or who organized it at the seed swap, and I thought they were mother and daughter at that particular point. So it may have changed.
I could be incorrect. I know the manager when she was a college student many years ago. So I could be totally missing a memo there, but I don't think so. But I could be totally wrong, right? But regardless, if you'd like to get in contact with either Margaret or Ariana, and they've both been out to Liberty Street a few times and are really big champions, but they run it as kind of an independent business model. I would compliment though what Helen said, which is the Liberty Street Market is also on city property, right? The vendors market is city property. And certainly Mr. Taylor as director of operations, who continues to support the market and attend the market frequently. I think there is some kind of oversight by the city, investment by the city, and it's on city property. Certainly the scale of the Carolina Classic Farmers Market. I can't remember exactly what we're calling it, Fairgrounds Farmers Market, right?
Yeah, just the fairgrounds.
Larger and longer established, and has a more, I think, formal role with a market manager. But there, I think there's some great opportunities to collaborate or learn lessons. And certainly as a committee, and this might be a transition for Helen, one of our assigned duties defined when we were created by City Council is an item that is both the Liberty Street Vendors Market and the Fairground Farmers Market. And so providing recommendations to both of those is one of our, I think, specified 10 duties together. So I think there is some sense from the city that they're both important vending spaces on city property.
Yes, and also before I do transition, thank you, Megan, that set it up nicely. I do want to update you all that Johnny Taylor is now an assistant city manager. So that was a recent decision. He recently got promoted into that role. So there is no longer a director of operations at this point. And so my department does still directly report to Johnny as he is our new assistant city manager, but I will be the direct oversight directly over the food resilience role. So that's how our new organizational chart looks, just to give you all some context about that. And yeah, just quickly to transition into what Megan was saying, I sent out what the current resolution in our Unified Development Ordinance says around this particular committee. I was looking at it because there were just some updates that needed to be made around, for instance, the name of the farmers market. And then this is definitely an older resolution that maybe should have been looked at earlier. It says in a number of places, the office or the Department of Business Inclusion and Advancement, which that department does not exist anymore anyways. So in looking at some of that stuff, just to update, so it's technically correct, I came to my attention that the Forsyth Community Food Consortium is also mentioned several times throughout this. I have gotten confirmation from Tiffany and Marcus Hill that that group does not exist in the form it was when this resolution was created. So there are a couple of options here that I would just like to present to you all, and you three can have sort of a jump on thinking about this. But thinking about changing the ordinance to better reflect sort of where we are now. So the options are to just completely take out, it's number 5 under the duties listed, that currently says work collaboratively with the Forsyth Community Food Consortium on strengthening the local food systems. We can take that out. And then as it applies to the membership, the last sentence in the section 2-296 says 1 seat on the council shall be reserved and designated for a member of that food consortium advisory council. So related to that, since again, that council no longer exists, we can amend this to say either that you don't have that specially reserved anymore, it becomes another general seat, or you can remove it completely, which would put total membership down to 8. Either way, your quorum would remain at 5. So it doesn't really impact the quorum, but it would impact just, you know, whether that seat should exist at all or not. And then shifting it to a general seat like the rest of them are. Brandon, yeah, I saw your hand.
Oh, no problem. I didn't mean to cut you off. I hope you didn't take it as such.
No.
As far as the now you say there's no longer a now what was this organization? The
Forsyth Community Food Consortium and the Advisory Council are both specifically named in this ordinance.
So those entities are no longer in existence. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay. So from those entities, what are you just saying? Just remove that as a collaboration and consortium in general, or is there?
Yes, that is yes, because as that no longer exists in the way that it was meant to serve as a partner to this council, that is correct.
Now,
if I could add some clarity to that, but I'll wait after Brandon.
Now, is there an alternative? Now, what was this? Were these entities unable to meet the desirables, or what's the reason for the dissolution?
According to Marcus Hill, he has said that group has effectively dissolved. So I believe that he is deciding to take a different route and developing more of a consultancy is what he said. And so that group just does not exist anymore.
Okay. Is there?
Michael, yeah, I know, Michael, you are involved in some of this.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Now go ahead.
I'll clarify it. Well, I wanted to ask, I had several questions, but I'm gonna start here. Now, Marcus Hill says that he has effectively dissolved the food consortium or Food Works now, and he's more into consulting. And basically, his council presence has pretty much been supplanted by island cultures. I don't know if he mentioned that, but Food Consortium or Food Works has pretty much folded into island cultures, which has a constituency of, you know, some type of food council presence regionally in this region. And I think that was part of the purpose of Food Works being involved or having this staple seat with the Food Council, because the inspiration or motivation of the Food Council came out of the community and out of the first ordinance that was created with the city, as far as creating the city lots or creating spaces where agriculture could take place in city lots or in abandoned properties. So, and even before that, the Food Works or Food Consortium had brought the idea of food councils to the city, but he pretty much deferred to the city with the understanding that he would have a seat. So as he's transitioned, I just wanted to put out there, you know, course, I'm biased, but protecting the community's interests, that is the reason why there was a seat on that on the council that was occupied by the Food Consortium.
Yes. And so, to my understanding, and Marcus has agreed that because specifically the advisory council of the Food Consortium no longer exists, that the seat could be removed if so voted by this council. My questions for you now are, does this Food Policy Council not now serve potentially the same thing that the original Food Consortium Advisory Council was created to do? And then as a follow-up, you said the Island Cultures Group also has a form of a regional council. Now, the members of this council right here do have to live in the city limits, which from the way that you have described it so far, and I'm just not as familiar with the members of that one, but if that is limiting the options for membership into this council, this one, I would argue that perhaps there is also benefits to widening the scope of who we're looking for to also join to build up the membership of this Urban Food Policy Council.
Now, firstly, I would say that's a good question as far as, does the Winston-Salem Urban Food Policy Council serve the same purpose that was intended by the Food Consortium? One thing I would say respectfully, I think the city is always going to be limited because of course, you have to respect ethics and, the chain of command before things can get implemented into policy. And I think that's why the Food Consortium was, emphatic in having a seat on the Food Policy Council, not as necessarily as a watchdog, but as a to be able to infuse regional and national influence into the council on a continuous basis. I can't really speak to other people's participation with food policy works. I know people come from different fields, and also do food works or food policy work, and Island Cultures, as well as what Food Works and Food Consortium was, who really spurred, the whole creation of Island Cultures. Our mission and vision is completely into the policy and the creation of impetus towards building a food system in the city. So
yes. I still have a couple questions, but Megan, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there, and maybe to kind of put it in a different way, I think, well, first of all, we'll put it on our next agenda, and ideally we'll have quorum, right? And discuss, at least take a sense from the council and a vote. Would we like to retain this number of seats or not? The second question I have for you specifically, Helen, is we currently have a person in that particular seat. And so I would like to know, because they're a very important member, that whatever we decide, that person's term is still valid without that linkage, right? The last thing I'll say, and I think this is kind of what Michael was saying, I think it is important in the work we do that a seat is designated to be sure that we have a representative who's doing bottom-up leadership connected with top-down leadership, and not using those terms in any sort of negative way, but just that to make sure we have access to all of the best information from the government, which to me, again, is sort of at the top level, right? And then from the grassroots, local individuals, local small scale vendors and farmers and things like that. I'm not sure how we design that. And I say this as an academic with the high degree titles, I do think it's really important that we have representation from actual individuals engaged in food production, actual individuals who represent sort of our urban core of many agricultural aspects that are part of our duties. And part of our duties, again, come back to two specific city markets, which bring me to local farmers, local growers, right? So those would be some of my thoughts for us to think about.
Yes,
And when we have a meeting with quorum, I've got lots of opinions on whether we keep the seat, this, that, the other, but I would like to know at least that the current person in the FoodWorks role.
I understand. I did think about that ahead of time. And so the idea is that the person who currently holds their role would be reappointed with the two that are already in sort of the line to get in there. So that would come, regardless of whether or not this seat is removed, there is still a third vacancy. So that person can then fill in that third vacancy or the fourth vacancy that then becomes available if this becomes a general seat. Then that would start, there are 2 consecutive terms, which is another 6 years from this year. So yes, we do not plan on or expect to kick this person off in any sense of that. So we recognize that that is a concern, and we plan to allow that person to fill whatever role needs to be filled, vacancy or continuing this current seat. I will also go back to the rest of section 2-296. And I hear your concerns about the type of representative that you want on this council. And I just want to draw attention to the sentence that says, members shall have an interest in the food system, including food production, distribution, marketing, processing, consumption, access, disposal, etc. We can expand that to include some of the more specifics that you mentioned. I also have a question and potentially a concern as to why maybe this one group is being chosen rather than some of the other groups that do also exist in Winston-Salem and that function similarly. I mean, it's almost exclusionary or almost favoritism in one way as well. And I just want to be careful that we are not excluding a number of other people in the community who would be able to share their thoughts, views, pretty much in the same space as what the current seat is. So I just want to put that out there as well, because I think that there is a larger number of residents that could maybe speak to what you have brought up than we've seen before. And if we go advertising or looking for them or asking around, I think that those folks could be found. Brandon, you can go ahead. I saw your hand again.
Yeah. Now, as far as I agree with what you're saying, what you said, the description in terms of the criteria in terms of growing, production, distribution, et cetera, I think that's pretty comprehensive, for one. The second point is, I don't know what groups, or I don't know if as a council that we determine what groups are identified as those who are going to represent on that type of committee. So I see what you're saying as far as being able to, screen and thoroughly vet those who are going to represent these types of initiatives as a subcommittee or whatever the case may be. I think as a council, it should be a thorough vetting process, because we don't want to have too many failed programs. You understand what I'm saying? We want to make sure everything is outcome based, is measurable, and it's sustainable. So we have to kind of have a standard in terms of screening out these individuals, entities, or groups that are going to have this responsibility and reflect the city and the people's on the people's behalf. So I don't know, I don't know the process, I don't know what the protocol, consists of, but yeah, I think that's something that we do need to re-examine or at least place a little bit more emphasis on.
Yeah, and the real bottom line here is not to really remove the voice of whoever of that food consortium, food works, whatever it's evolving into. It's just to expand the opportunity to hear other voices. That's really the bottom line here. So we're not getting rid of it to get rid of it. I mean, of course that group doesn't exist anymore, so we can't leave it in there as is also.
I mean, it's a strategy. You know, it's
so
like
that's just the point, really.
Right, I understand that. It's a strategy. You know, if it doesn't work, you got to throw it away and get something that works.
Well, I'm gonna add this on, and I don't think the whole point was that it didn't work. I think it was that, you know, basically this food consortium had folded into another organization. But I do agree with, you know, we definitely have to be sensitive towards, you know, any type of favoritism and make sure that everything's democratic. So I look forward to having, you know, vetting out, you know, having a good conversation about this, because it's always reasons why. It's never just what it appears to be. So I would say that, and even as you're a member of sustainability, I would think that you would be kind of familiar with that because of, you know, how it's heavily populated by certain organizations as itself. You know,
absolutely. And that's why my committee has the requirement of a representative from every ward, as well as 2 universities, just so we don't hear those same voices that we already do hear. So again, the bottom line here is just really improving the interconnection of all of these food systems to really provide that resilient and sustainable work to make sure that, bottom line, people are getting the food that they need, are able to grow the food that they want and sell it where they want, when they want, that kind of stuff. So if we have a more comprehensive voice in this council, I think that we can move towards that. And again, that's really the bottom line.
Okay.
All right. So I think I'm going to maybe nudge towards this goes on a future agenda item, just so that we have more of us and there's, you know, that when we have a quorum. But there, Helen, is it that we as a council will put together recommendations for the city to approve? I mean, I can't imagine we have editing power.
Right. Yeah. So this council will ultimately vote on what to do about that seat. So other changes, like changing the name of the former fairgrounds to just say Fairgrounds Farmers Market, the places where Office of Sustainability is now appropriate, those things will already be able to go to City Council. But because this one involves the membership of this council, you all, we would need approval from you all on what to do about that seat, whether remove it or change it.
But can we make a decision, right? So in other words, I'm just going to make stuff up, right? But then I'm going to kind of nudge us to put it on a future agenda when we have a quorum. But let's say we decide we want to retain the seat and follow a model similar to the Sustainability Committee, have one representative from each ward. Do we have the jurisdiction to make that decision, or we want to not have a food works seat, but we want to have a seat that is a food pantry position, right? So you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I know what you're saying. And this one is there's a lot of technicalities, I think, from the legal side of this. So I will get in contact with our attorney's office and whomever else, just to make sure that we know, and so that you know before this does go on to a meeting with a full quorum. So I'll let you know once I'm able to double check that, because that is a good question, and I'll be sure to follow back up with you. And also I'll put it out there.
Yeah, I'll put it on the agenda, our next meeting agenda, and also kind of reach out and encourage folks, as well as, you know, Brandon and Michael here tonight. Think of your ideas, you know, be ready to kind of share some proposals of what may work better in terms of the type of council positions, if we're able to either designate some of those or at least make recommendations. Because I think the right council members in terms of representing the food community is important, and that that's been a challenge for us in some ways. So however we might kind of formalize that or better define that, I think makes us a better council.
And I'll also say, if you do have any other further concerns or questions that you would rather just speak to me and or Megan about one-on-one, contact me. I think all of my phone numbers are in my email signature there. So you can email or call me if you want to further discuss some of these things outside of the council time. But yeah, just want to put that out there for you guys.
Excellent. Yeah, so I guess there I would say then, just in respect of time, since it's an informal meeting, unless there's anything other folks might want to contribute. I don't even think I motioned to close it because it's not officially open, but I just kind of wanted to put a last call for comments and stuff. And if not, certainly I wouldn't want to go past our usual meeting end time.
Well, I think the only thing I would like to ask about is how, and this probably can come out in that same language you were talking about, but how is there a way that, you know, we can find, since Helen is sitting on this, you know, sitting in this temporary position, trying to find ways that we can glean knowledge from sustainability or get more familiar, just so that, you know, some of the things that we bring up, like you said, from a grassroots perspective, from a bottoms up perspective, that it gets the time of day to be heard and, you know what I mean, considered and weighed out, you know what I'm saying, scientifically, you know, with research-based data, you know what I mean, that you are at some type of disposal. You know, we have a big water access issue, land access issue. There's reasons why maybe the Liberty Street market is not thriving, where the, you know, the farmers market at the fairgrounds is populated by people outside the city, more so, is maybe more sustained or more established. So is it ways that, you know, that we can run our grassroots ideas, you know, across to the sustainability? And, you know, even with, you know I heard you speak of like some access to Arpa funding, the American Rescue Plan. Well, maybe I heard that in Sustainability Council itself, but I heard the Sustainability Council itself speaking of, you know, how they had certain dibs on money that's going to come out. You know,
so just to clarify, and I'm sorry if you hear my dog in the background. So are you talking about connecting directly with the sustainability committee, or me, sustainability as a department, or both maybe?
Well, I'm first off saying you sustainability as a department.
Okay.
You know, since you're there, and you know, is there ways that we can, you know, access that data and validate some of our concerns to, you know what I mean? Like, I know we just had a map shared. I hadn't sat down and watched it yet, but a map that showed like where our water access is, where is our available urban farms, which ones are abandoned lots. Like, is there some kind of way that our worlds can collide?
Absolutely, and, yeah. So that was the idea too, of moving this food resilience position into the Office of Sustainability. Tiffany and I were finding a lot of overlap there before that decision was made. And we began connecting more and more on various topics. And so, yeah, that's definitely the part of the reason behind that shift into my department. And again, as the new food resilience program manager comes in, they will be under my supervision. And we will be able to definitely collaborate more, as, you know, across combining really the sustainability side of it with the food side of it, as you're saying. And then I'll just quickly comment on the ARPA funding. That was just, I think, ideal suggestions that they were making. Committees like this, the best way for them to really interact and share their thoughts around the ARPA stuff is through the official public comment options. So I know that there are forums on the website and whatnot for folks to give their ideas as residents. But
if I could say, my comment directly related to sustainability. public comment. So
yeah, we actually got a bunch, so we appreciate it definitely. But yeah, I don't really know much else besides it. I'm not really directly involved in that Arpa funding group. I'm not part of that committee that's going to end up making the decisions. So yeah, I would just recommend maybe taking those avenues if you do have further comments as well. I just don't have any additional insight or ideas about how that will be used or where the money will end up even. So
just like you said earlier, you said you all have access to like solar panels. Like this is the first time I've heard of that.
We got money directly in this year's budget for that. So that's just from the general fund that the city council. What kind of criteria is in
place for that? Pardon me.
I'm sorry, what did she say?
What kind of criteria is in place for that? Like how?
We're still going to decide. We're still looking into that. I mean, we just got the money that was official in July, and then the council took their recess in July. So me and my team, we have an energy manager role. He and I are working together on that to really evaluate. It's going to go on a city facility or property. We do know that much. And city facility or a city property. So, something like a fire station, for example. So something that the city already owns, and then we will use that to help. I'm sorry?
Or a farmer's market?
Yeah, that's being considered as well. But yeah, it's really just trying to identify ways that will both maximize sort of the savings, cost savings, and energy savings. So ultimately that will be up to city council and the rest of sort of our city management to decide which site they think is best. But yeah, that is something that our department will be working on in the coming fiscal year.
And I really just brought that up as an example of how, your priority could really, send a jolt of energy to what we're trying to do, because the food council is very much under-resourced. Like, at least your department has at least gotten something from the city.
For the first time in 10 years, I tell you what, we worked hard for that. But yeah, I mean,
how long people been starving in Winston, though. You know what I mean? Like, we're the worst in the country as far as this food disparity. And we have the most pantries and food crisis intervention distribution centers. So
yes, I am aware.
That's the argument that's going to kind of be juxtaposed into the space when, why it's important that we have a certain element, whatever guidelines or whatever, descriptive pieces we want to put into that seat. I think that's important that we really have the equity addressed. It's one thing to, address food access, but the equity in the actual community infrastructure needs to be addressed as well. So that's why I think it's really important for like sustainability to really be familiar with food, the Food Policy Council.
Yes, so, and again, as somebody who is not a food professional, the person that we hire will be. So
where are they hiring this person from? Like, is it?
We don't know. That process.
I could apply for the job. I'm not going to apply for the job, but I could apply for the job. Or Brandon could apply for the job.
The application is closed, so it was open for the entire month of August. The application's closed August 30th. So, seeing as that was only a week ago, we are really still at the beginning of that. And there were a lot of applications. I do know that. So it could be a while. So just bear with us. Yeah. Any of your concerns in the meantime, send them to me. I am the unofficially in charge of the food stuff until we get somebody else in there.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that there's a couple of very exciting applicants. So I'm very optimistic about who may come into that position. I know some folks who are looking at it who have a lot of great experience and value the work of our council and would really add great value to our city through a government role. So I'm excited.
Good. Glad to hear that.
You say you got some exciting candidates.
I'm not
said that.
involved in the process at all, just as
Maybe I thought, sometimes I thought I may have.
I know
heard
some people, I know a couple folks that applied for the position because it's a really great position and they're passionate about kind of working with the government in this role. So I'm very optimistic, just kind of in my limited knowledge that I think it's going to be a good applicant pool. That's all I was saying.
Glad to hear it.
All right, y'all. Well, we've got some stuff to add to our next agenda. Helen, I appreciate all the work that you're doing. I'm sure you're juggling a lot of extra stuff as well. So thanks for looking into especially those kind of council positions and what kind of either input or leverage we have in looking at designating some of them or undesignating them.
Absolutely.
And I would say, as we're closing, and pardon me for being a little wordy, but I think it is very, I think it is it's a bit of implicit bias to think that, if 1 out of 9 positions was taken by, what may have been the so-called root of the call to urban food policy counseling in the city, like, even that sustainability had a root. I'm not sure where it came from, but the Food Policy Council definitely had a root where it started from. So I think that we should really be, kind of like conscious of that and not think that, our lack of participation from the overall city is due to one position being held down. Because,
that was not at all the message that I was trying to communicate.
Okay. Well,
my message is that since that advisory council and that organization do not exist anymore, it is not appropriate for it to remain in the resolution. That is my bottom line.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with
that's
not even a concern.
I think Michael, there in a way of kind of history and things like that, I would say it is a true testament to the success of FoodWorks that we got an advisory council, and that when you even look at from the point of having the Urban Food Policy Council to today, our first liaison with the city was in inclusion, right? I'm not getting the exact office right, but now there is a food resilience manager and this, you know what I'm saying?
And an office of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there you go.
Right.
Still there.
Yeah. So I think there, in a way, it's kind of like as progress has evolved, as the city has created more permanence and specific roles or offices that recognize how important this work is and these topics are to the functioning of our economy and livelihoods as the city of Winston-Salem, that maybe part of that evolution is also kind of how does the council then keep pace with the growth and things like that. So that's kind of what I'd say to that, Michael. I would say it's a great success that we're in a spot in 2021 where like the city's hiring a food resilience manager, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, it'll all come out in the wash, but I was just saying, like, I just didn't want the message, and maybe I heard Helen wrong, but my thing is, just one seat is not going to necessarily prohibit the involvement of people from all over the city from participating. The only thing it's really going to do is continue. It's going to continue, like it's real history in this policy council. So when certain elements are disposed of, that goes away too. Just like Brandon, he could be fully vetted in the community himself, but it's certain things that he still might be trying to learn about the history of this council and the whole movement of food in this city. That's just the way it is. You should know that from sustainability. So
yeah, Michael, I think that this would be a better conversation for you and I to have at a separate date, if you don't mind. Again, just to respect the time of everyone here.
That's cool.
Please call me or email me at any point during tomorrow, next week, the week after, really anytime.
Okay. I will get your email from Megan. I think I already got it though from your email.
I have emailed out some items before, so yes, please.
Okay.
And my phone numbers, like I said, should be in my signature there, so you should have those as well.
That's all good.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you. And sorry, I got young kids who, like I said, I arrived home from work during our meeting. It's a tough day on Thursday, so they're about to lose their mind. It's like feeding the gremlins after midnight. So I'm a little bit nudging at least to close to 7:30 because it's about to get a lot worse than sounding like a TV in the background. So sorry about that, y'all. And thanks everyone for contributing too. You know, I think a lot of really great points were brought up, and I'm excited to have quorum and kind of think about how we want to maybe define some of these roles with the council and think about that position, you know.
Okay.
I think we had a lot of meaningful conversation. You know, everything was necessary. So everyone be safe. Until next time.
All right, y'all. Take care and have a good evening. And feel free to reach out one-on-one as well, whether it's to Helen or me. I'm excited to think about these things next month.
All right, get to it.
Cue the background noise. Yep. All right.
Thanks, Helen.
Take care,
all right, Mike. All right, man.
Good night.